So that's called ecology. Ecology is a study of the interactions of organisms with their physical environment and with each other. Okay? So in order to understand ecology, we have to know some basic terms like this. Okay? So first one is population. Okay, so when we're talking about human beings, right? So for any kind of species, when we're talking about population, it's basically talking about a group of individuals of one species living in one area who can interbreed and, and interact with each other. Okay, one thing about the species, right? So if you are in if the animals are in the same species, they should be able to interbreed with each other. Okay, and between different species, there's a reproductive barrier, okay? So they can't really breed between two different species, but always within one population, one species, you're able to reproduce, or you're able to breed, okay? Number two, community, okay? So community consists of all the organisms living in one area. So this is in terms of the place. Number three, ecosystem. Okay, so ecosystem includes all the organisms in a given area as well as the abiotic factors with which they interact. Okay. Number four, abiotic factors is opposite to the biotic factors. Okay, so abiotic factors are non-living, okay, including the environmental factors such as temperature, water, sunlight, wind, rocks, and soil. Okay, biotic factors is to deal with the real organisms. Okay, so include all the organisms with which an organism might react, such as birds, insects, predators, prey, and parasites. Okay. Number six, biosphere is the global ecosystem. So if you have one ecosystem, that's just called ecosystem, but overall globally, that's called the biosphere. Number seven, niche or niche includes what an organism eats and what it needs to survive. Okay. So based on these kind of terms, okay, now we're going to talk about properties of populations. Okay. So when we're talking about population, always we talk about three different things, okay? Size, density, and dispersion. Okay? How big the population is, okay? How dense the population is, okay? And how dispersed the individuals are within the population, okay? So size is the total number of individuals in the population, right? 4 variables limit the size of a population. You should know this, okay? So number 1, number of births, number of deaths. Number 3, immigration. Number 4, immigration, okay? So immigration means how many people come into the population, right? Immigration is how many people, how many individuals actually leave the population, okay? Density is kind of different from the concept of size, right? So density is the number of individuals per unit area or volume. Okay, so how dense the individuals reside within the population is called density. Okay, so in order to measure the density within a certain population, you use a certain sampling technique. Okay, so for this, in order to measure this, actually you use a sampling technique. Okay, so one common sampling technique is called mark and recapture. Okay, so for example, when you're looking at some kind of rabbit population, right? Then you capture a rabbit and then you mark it, right? And then you capture another rabbit and then you mark it, and then next time that marked rabbit reappears, then you check. Okay, so. More frequent you see the marked rabbit, okay, that means the population is more dense, okay? So when you read through 282 on the top, in this technique, organisms are captured, tagged, and then released, right? Sometime later, the same process is repeated, and a special mathematical formula is used to determine the density of the population, okay? You don't need to know specifically what kind of formula is used, but you just have to know what the mark and recapture actually does in order to find out the density. Okay, and then the third thing that you have to know about the population is dispersion. Okay, so for dispersion you have 3 different patterns. Okay, so dispersion of population could be clumped, Okay, so when you look at a picture, right,